Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk all things hockey are your hosts, Brad Crisco, Ryan Hanna, and Evan Lobsinger.
Off-season content's good.
It's a great time.
I like that we can laugh at all of the online hate pointed at each other. It is fun. Ridiculous.
Maybe for you. It's not for me.
Ridiculous, but it is fun. Brad, your strategy is still the best. Maintain your mental health. Stay away. This is a man who has 2 kids at home who absolutely destroy him personally every time he sees them. So he doesn't need more of that.
Yes, absolutely.
Folks, welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Another fun off-season episode for you. We're pre-recording, so let's hope the world doesn't turn upside down from the time of this recording to the time you hear it. Here to talk to you about Red Wings hockey, international hockey, and some special guests. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Hanna.
I'm Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan.
On this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast, we are joined by none other than Ken Daniels, who is here to talk to us a little bit about the work that the Jamie Daniels Foundation does and how Wings Money on the Board and Winged Wheel Podcast nights at the LCA have supported that. He also has a special announcement for us, which we are excited for you to hear. Prashanth Iyer is also joining us on that interview, and we're going to talk about the Red Wings free agency and where they went in the draft and what's coming up and things like that. So a lot of good talk, a lot of good conversation. Always good to have Ken on the show. He was way more relaxed than we were. He's literally sitting out by the pool, which we need to take a note. We're working so hard on this studio, and he's literally out by the pool.
Living the dream.
This is why Ken is the GOAT, and we are just a couple of meatheads talking on a podcast. After that, there is some Red Wings news in terms of a contract that was signed. One of the last contracts for the Red Wings to sign, and the last of the arbitration eligible players. Jake Walman signed his deal. Additionally, there's some news from the World Juniors, a little bit more news coming out of Russia, and then some stuff coming out of the rest of the NHL. Drama from Vegas, believe it or not, and players who used to be in Vegas, believe it or not. And then we'll get into overtime. So before we jump into the interview, have you guys been watching the clips of HBO Hard Knocks? The Lions season, the first episode dropped.
I only saw Aiden Hudson singing Billie Jean.
That's all you need to see.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah. HBO Sports and NFL Films are partnering with the Detroit Lions for an unfiltered all-access look at, as we saw, at what it takes to make it in the National Football League with Hard Knocks training camp with the Detroit Lions. The season will chronicle head coach Dan Campbell, noted kneecap eater, entering his second season, leading an intriguing mix of young emerging stars and established vets throughout training camp and the preseason. Hard Knocks will mark the 17th edition of the 18-time Sports Emmy-winning series and the most acclaimed serialized sports series on TV. Stream the new season now on HBO Max. As a Lions fan, and I said this on Twitter too, as a Lions fan, I understand I will never have. It is genuinely my opinion that I will never have success or happiness. It's my job as a Lions fan to only know pain. And every year I work hard to not buy into any hype. And Aiden Hutchinson singing Billie Jean was not on my list of things to turn that around this year. But my God, if I haven't watched that clip 10,000 times.
How much do you think we'd have to raise for the Jamie Daniels Foundation to get Evan to do that in front of everybody at the Winged Wheel?
There'd have to be a lot more zeros than what we've currently done.
What do you think, like the equivalent of
and a lot more drinks, that's for sure.
Well, if you guys, if everyone contributes the zeros, then Evan will contribute the Billie Jean. Maybe. We need to, it's been a while since you've recreated the pie dance, man.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, folks, we're going to jump into this interview. It's time to talk not only about the amazing fundraising that you've done through Wings Money on the Board, but also to talk Red Wings hockey. So without further ado, we are joined by Ken Daniels and Prashanth Iyer in this interview. Enjoy. Well, this is long overdue, having the entire Wings Money on the Board crew. Folks, welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. We are joined by none other than Ken Daniels, lead announcer of the Detroit Red Wings, and Prashanth Iyer, our good friend and partner in crime in running Wings Money on the Board. Gentlemen, how are you?
Great.
Can't complain.
Nice to be here.
Ken, It's the off season. We see you're outside. You're right next to the pool. It's nice if you actually have the Bally shirt on. You're looking very professional, but I hope you're enjoying your summer.
I am, and I golfed today with Trevor Thompson. Haven't golfed as much as I'd like to. We have so much work going around here. We bought this place last August, and a year later now we're getting there, but we're still not there yet. Through COVID and construction folks, and everybody's busy, and the prices keep going up. But we're getting there. So it's been nice, and when I can golfing, and when I'm not, I'm swimming, and when it's not raining, it's all good.
Well, you'll be happy to know that, sad though it is that Shea Weber isn't here, he's not here because he is golfing, believe it or not. So that is, it's on brand for him. Prashanth, how have you been? How's the little one?
Little one is good. He's trying to do everything he can to run around now, so it's a lot of energy to keep up with him. But we are managing.
That's good to hear. So, I'll open by maybe asking you, Ken, first. We have a lot of new listeners who maybe don't know about the Jamie Daniels Foundation and the work that you do. So if you can give just a brief rundown on what the Jamie Daniels Foundation does for the listeners.
Well, we lost Jamie December 7th of 2016, so it's been a while now, and our work continues. We started the foundation in 2018 in his memory. And so far, we've raised approximately $1.2 million in that time. A large part of that is because of what the Winged Wheel podcast has done as well, and 3 celebrity roasts, the live one of Mickey Redmond. We hope to do that again at some point, and Scotty Bowman and Brett Hall virtually. We just thought we couldn't do another virtual one this year. We did a comedy night in May, which raised some funds. We're opening up an adolescent youth center in Troy, Michigan this fall. Regardless of ability to self-pay or insurance, those who need help will be able to get it. Working with a terrific doctor there, Matt Lacasse, and so many other folks who are on board. So more on that to come. And our next event we're looking at, well, I'm saying this right now, but nothing confirmed yet, but for December 1st. And Ryan, I know we've asked you to be a part of that, and we're planning to do a breakfast hot stove. And I guess anyone who's watched Hockey Night in Canada knows what hot stove is, but for those who don't, it's a hockey discussion with some profile guests, including Mickey Redmond and some others still to be announced. So that's what we're looking for in December. In Detroit, still finalizing a location, but hope to raise some funds there for maybe 200 people. Have an enjoyable breakfast with some fun time. So that's our next event. And besides what you guys are doing to raise funds that you've done so well with.
Well, that's all amazing, and obviously a lot to come, like you mentioned. Maybe let's talk about Wings money on the board, like Ken just mentioned, and let's hear from you, Prashanth, because I know we put our heads together last summer to say we're raising a lot of good money for the foundation, and how do we take this to the next level? So, talk to us a little bit about what Wings money on the board is and what we've done over the past year or so.
Yeah, so Wings money on the board was basically the brainchild of how to take what is really a tremendous community in the online, via Twitter, Reddit, all these other places, and find a way to channel that energy and to a very good, charity in the Jamie Daniels Foundation. And so what we tried to do was put together a pledge drive where effectively, you can make a pledge at the beginning of the season, midway through the season, say, I'll donate $1 for every Dylan Larkin point. I'll donate $53 for Seider's first goal, something along those lines. And at the end of the season, you were sort of accountable to the pledge that you made at the beginning of the year. You guys did a terrific job collecting all of those pledges and reaching out to everybody as the different pledges were hit through the course of the season. And then ultimately, it culminated in what was a wildly successful year, I think, for us. We kind of almost doubled what we were anticipating going into this season, funds-wise. And so I'm hoping next year we can kind of maintain that momentum and keep it going.
I think the total, it kept climbing and it kept creeping up. Our initial goal was 20,000, and then we were like, well, we blew past that, so maybe we reached 25. And even before we have the flannels out there, and the Mickey Redmond Winged Wheel podcast flannels will be raising money for the foundation as well. Those haven't been sold yet, and we've crossed 32,000. So that's what you've all done, that amazing community that Prashanth referenced.
Yeah, and it brings, honestly, it warms our hearts. It brings tears to our eyes. And when I send it out to the group and our board, what you guys have done, and they'll send it out on social media, and I do on Instagram, and we do on Twitter. Although I'm not on Twitter, it's too mean of a world for me. But it's just wonderful what you guys have done, and it truly means a lot to end the shame and stigma around substance use disorder. And to your point earlier, we've granted more than $400,000 to 7 colleges now that we're a part of for recovery programs here in Michigan, including U of M, Central Michigan, Michigan State, et cetera. And it funds full-time recovery coaches, drug-free dorms. So that's what we do at the Jamie Daniels Foundation, allowing those a place to recover in a safe environment.
One of the ways that we kind of used to tag along Wings Money on the Board to raise money for that, incredibly important work that Ken just talked about was through Winged Wheel podcast nights at the LCA. And we partnered with our friends at the Detroit Red Wings who have been very gracious hosts and partners for those events, where a portion of every ticket sold to that event, which included, a pre-show live recording of the podcast, which Ken joined both times, Mick joined, seating together at the arena, giveaways, swag, things like that, and then a post-event meetup. Every ticket sold, a portion of those proceeds went to the Jamie Daniels Foundation. And on that note, Ken, if you would do the honors of our special announcement for this episode.
So the next fabulous Winged Wheel podcast night with yours truly and Mickey Redmond. And by the way, he does love doing it. What time? And he's all in on this. Will be right before Halloween. So maybe you come with your best dressed. I don't know. It is a Saturday night, right? 9:00 on a Saturday, Billy Joel. We'll get Mickey to sing maybe. Saturday night against the Minnesota Wild, Saturday, October 29th at Little Caesars Arena. It'll be the third, right, Winged Wheel podcast night. Is that correct? Third one?
That's right. That's correct.
Okay. Beautiful. Looking forward to it.
So that's Saturday, October 29th. Big shout out to the Red Wings for helping with that planning. Lots to come. Tickets should go on sale around the end of August, but stay tuned for that. So we're very, very excited. I think our goal is to crush the $32,000 that we raised last season. Let's see how far beyond that we can go in the great work we can do for the Jamie Daniels Foundation and the Children's Foundation.
Good stuff.
Let's talk about the Red Wings off season. We're relaxing now, but around July things got a little bit crazy. How surprised were you, Ken, with all of the moves that Steve Yzerman made and the different shape that the Red Wings team took, especially through free agency?
I was surprised that there were that many, but I also knew that you need fans in the building and you need hope and you need competitiveness. So maybe in hindsight and knowing how competitive Steve is, and yes, he preached patience for the rebuild, maybe we shouldn't be so surprised that I know that you guys have spoken of playoff chances and not great this year, and not just because of what the Red Wings have or haven't done. It's because of who is in their division and over on the other side in the Metro too. You have to take that into account. So I think having the young kids like Seider and Raymond, and, many nights were exposed, and we saw the 11 goals go in and the 10 and the 9 and the 8 and the 7 and all the rest of them that went in last year. You don't want that again. You don't want that embarrassment. You don't want that culture. So maybe knowing how Steve is, we shouldn't have been surprised, but the pieces that he added, whether it be Chiarot and Matta to beef up a blue line, and when you lose Stahl and DeKaiser's done. And I wasn't surprised at the Copp signing. I always thought either it would be Copp or Trocheck. I thought it would be one of the two. I wasn't surprised at that one. And now what it is, when you've got whom they have signed now, you've got everyone slotted in the right position. So I think that matters a lot. You're no longer guessing now. You're no longer hoping now. Now you can see it. Sure, you're hoping for success, but now you can see why this may lead to some success because everyone's slotted correctly, at least for now.
Of all the new guys, who's the one you're most excited to see? Not necessarily what they can do on the ice, because I think we have a good idea of what they are, but who's going to help elevate the young players around them the most?
That's a good question. It may be Copp. It may be Husso in goal. It might be. Maybe it drive, not that Nedeljkovic needs the drive, but we saw where the stumble came and before the rebound after a terrific start last season. So maybe it's that, just giving the guys confidence. And if it starts from the net out, maybe with a strong goaltending tandem, if Husso can do what we think he can do, or is showing in a limited role, or what we hope he can do, maybe it gives everybody confidence that there aren't those blowouts, and the nights where the youth will prevail, and on some nights that's going to happen and not the best way, that maybe goaltending can stem it off for that moment, for that game. So I'm most interested to see that, as well as Copp, and in a 2C hole, if that's where he winds up being, and not to the wing, and we'll see what happens, and the wingers. So there's so much that goes into that, but I think for me, Copp and Husso.
So Ken, you've called for the Red Wings for a long time, and you've seen a lot of players kind of come through the organization and reach their heights. And maybe Mo Seider is one of the more unique ones that you've seen, and Lucas Raymond to a degree. But what would you say are your expectations for those two star rookies coming into their sophomore seasons? Or what would you say expectations should be for fans?
Well, the expectations are always the issue, right? I remember being on with you guys to start last year, and you said, what are your expectations? I said, best to have none and see where they go. And I really didn't, until you saw what Seider could do, and then you can get excited by that. And then you saw we had no expectations that Raymond would make the team out of camp. And then the injury to Jacob Vrana pretty much opened that spot for him, and he wasn't leaving. So the door opened, and he closed it behind him, saying, all the rest of you can stay where you are. I'm here. So I don't know. I don't like to put numbers on it. I guess a large part depends whom they're playing with. And maybe Seider takes another step if he's with Chiarot, or it winds up being with Mata. I don't know. Let's see what Edvinsson does. And let's see if Hronek, whom Hronek is with, and if it's Mata, and it takes some heat off Seider and Chiarot. Maybe Seider can play minutes that are different minutes, and isn't exposed in certain situations that he might be. So much goes into that. Again, I just let it play out. I don't put them too high. I expect them to continue to grow. Let's put it that way. And I don't see why they wouldn't. So those would be my only expectations, continued growth.
So a quick question about the NHL draft here, and not what you think it is. I'm thinking of Mickey Redmond when the Red Wings draft guys like Amadeus Lombardi, Maximilian Kilpinen, Tanias Mathurin. Is this one of the best draft classes for names, just thinking about how you and Mickey are going to call them?
How I'm going to call them, and Mick, we're not so sure. But, we're waiting for, and I was watching the World Juniors just last night, and I saw that Red Savage was wearing number 20, and right away that hits me. Redmond with a number 20 on his back, Redmond Savage. So I love that. So even that name. So yeah. We always go through it when we have the Bally calls in the morning and names phonetically. I didn't think we'd have to go through our own team. But sometimes we do. But that's still a few years down the road, I think, for the most part. So we can wait on that one. But it was fun to see those names for sure.
Talking more about the draft class here, and this one's for you, Prashanth. The Red Wings, we joked a lot about them having a prototypical Red Wings draft where maybe the Marco Kasper pick was expected the moment he was there at 8th overall, and then they kind of went not off the board, but not one of the more well-known names with Dylan James at number 40. What do you make of the Red Wings draft class and some notable parts in there for you, good or bad?
I think we talked about it a lot heading into the draft, that this was going to be one of the most wide open drafts for all these teams, because a lot of these guys lost their draft -1 years. You had the OHL shut down. You had the J20 over in Sweden shut down for a period of time. So a lot of guys were just not really as well known heading into this past season. And I think you saw that play out with every team having very dramatically different boards. And that makes it evaluating against a public consensus that much more difficult, which is what a lot of us try to do here, is kind of judge against what public consensus would be. And so the Red Wings draft definitely bucked the public consensus there. But that's not to say that there were pieces there that aren't great. Like a guy that's really been shining is Dmitry Buchelnikov over in the Sochi Cup, just was named the best player in the tournament over there. He was a guy who was on, I think, one public draft board heading in that I saw, but an incredibly talented player. So, I mean, he's a guy that really stands out for me. And then, all the way down, Tanais Mathurin, Maximilian Kilpinen, you go all the way down, you can find elements of each of their games that you really, really like. And so I think this is one where you're just going to have to say time is going to tell. You're going to see what it looks like in a couple of years as a lot of these guys try to regain some of those developmental years that they maybe lost, or pieces of the development that they didn't get to necessarily have.
Talking about prospects, the second try at the World Junior Championships has started. We're recording this on Wednesday evening, and the Red Wings have 9 prospects at that tournament, and that's excluding those who obviously had to turn down the invite. Brad, walk us through what some of the main storylines are there and what we're already seeing from Red Wings prospects.
So at the time of recording this right now, Canada hasn't officially started their tournament yet. Sweden just finished up their first game, and noted goon Theodor Niederbach got kicked out late in the game for a dirty hit. So he's off to a fantastic start. Edvinsson did get a primary assist, but lot of really interesting storylines for Red Wings prospects. Team Canada notably is giving Sebastian Cossa the start tonight against Latvia. He was the third goalie in the winter, so he wasn't likely going to step on the ice at any point in that tournament. So even if his only start is Latvia, and Canada's plan is still to give Grand the tougher matchups, it's still a step in the right direction, despite Cossa, I'd say, underperforming expectations this past year, despite winning the WHL championship, which isn't a small feat. And Donovan Sabrango being elevated to Team Canada's top pair, given the A as one of the leaders on the team, because it's rare for a guy to be a 2-year AHL vet and still be eligible for the World Juniors. So obviously those are going to be 2 huge storylines. I mean, half of Team Sweden is Red Wings prospects, so obviously we'll follow that closely. Edvinsson and Wallander had good games today, with just some minor hiccups. Even Jed Bednash on the Czech Republic in a kind of wide open tournament could be a guy who can steal some games. He had a really shaky first period in his first start against Slovakia, and then locked it down and got the win for Czechia. And then, again, Red Savage and Carter Mazer with the States are going to be super interesting to watch, because a year ago, I don't think either of those guys were really high on USA Hockey's radars for the World Juniors. They played their way onto the team. And when you look at where they're slotting, Mazer particularly, he's being given a healthy role on this team. So, not that these guys need boosts of confidence, but to have a major international tournament in August, right before everybody's going to start reporting to their club teams, AHL teams, junior teams, whatever it might be, this is a really, really good opportunity to really bolster the confidence going into what should be a key year for a lot of these guys.
So jumping back to the Red Wings in this upcoming season, Ken, you mentioned this, at some point getting butts in seats has to be a priority. And yeah, there's a business aspect to that, but then also considering the culture of the team. This is a Red Wings team and a fan base that came from the Joe, which still feels like yesterday, but was much longer than that now, where, there's spirit, there's soul, and there was a heart and a lot of championships in that arena. Is there an importance here to kind of build on the momentum from last season and get, even if it's not a playoff winning team, a winning team or a team that hangs in there more to play in the LCA to kind of continue to grow and snowball in a good way for the Red Wings and their trajectory?
100%. You don't want to repeat of what happened last year. I think last year there was that malaise and the COVID, and it was still a different year, even though COVID seems like so long ago now, and it wasn't, and still all around us in many aspects. But sure, it's important. And so when you had the bright spots of Seider and Raymond, and then you hope maybe Edvinsson, and then who knows, maybe there's a bright spot in Kubalik, and it's another one that signed. And yeah, you've got to continue to build. And I think, again, let's not put the high expectations on Simon Edvinsson, but let's see. I mean, boy, if you could ever have that again, but let's not go there, and we shouldn't expect that. So expect those from what we know, and be pleasantly surprised from what we don't. And I think that would be a wonderful thing, but you have to build on it. People in the seats, build the momentum. Let's get the talk out there. I mean, everyone was talking about Trevor Zegras last year, and I always wondered, and you guys know, and Red Wing fandom knows, how affable Mo Seider is. If you can promote this guy and what a personality he is and how wonderful he is, let's keep building on Seider. I think Seider one day will be a captain. I can just sense it. That Mo Seider will be a captain of this team someday. That's putting out there way too early, and hopefully Dylan's got 10 more years left in him. But at some point, I could see Mo Seider being a captain of this team. You can hear it, and I call him Mo Seider, and I guess many do, and you can call him Moritz or whatever you want. But I love it when the players talk about him, and I know him personally, and when I talk to them about him, and they call him Momo, I love that. And that's a sign of affection. That's an endearment. And they call him Momo. And they love that guy in the room. And I can just see how his personality just builds on the rest of the group.
So I'm glad you actually brought it up, because one question that's been going all around the Red Wings social media world this offseason is, with the departure of Danny DeKeyser and Mark Stahl, there's 2 vacant assistant captain slots on this team right now. If you were in charge, who are the group of guys that you think you would give a long look at giving the A's to?
Well, Seider would be one for me. And you could say, well, he's so young. So was Steve when he became captain. I mean, times have changed too. And Dylan wasn't necessarily old, although Steve waited that out and wanted to see. I think Steve saw lots for more at Seider. Is it too young to give it to him? What's the leadership group like in that room? You're going to have the veteran guy in there. Might it be Ben Chiarot right now for one of those guys, considering the deal? And I know some have criticized it, but whatever. He's here for not a hugely long time, but a long enough time. If Mark Stahl was, then, why couldn't Ben Chiarot be one as well? And another in that group. Well, I'd certainly put Seider and Chiarot in there to begin with, and Andrew Copp, I think, would be another one for me.
There's going to be a lot of people who would bring up Tyler Bertuzzi's name, but I think a lot of that depends on what happens with his, status on the team.
Exactly.
Is there going to be a contract?
Exactly.
You don't know. Yeah. And there's a lot of new names who came in, and we talked about this before. The chemistry on the team will take a while to settle, so I kind of feel like there's going to be, the way the landscape settles, maybe 20, 30 games into the season will be different than what people expect. And then I might have a better mind, but they'll probably have to pick by then, or they might just do the rotating thing.
They might. They could do the rotating thing for sure, but you're right. If something happens with Bertuzzi, I could see that. If, if Tyler isn't, you don't want that, with the A as well. I have a tendency to think the A's are somewhat overrated publicly. I think it means a lot, the guys in the room, and Dylan's the leader in the room. If you've got a good leadership group and the guys are stepping up anyway, I don't think it really matters. It's nice for the player for sure. It's good for him, but I don't think it truly is the be all and end all for me.
Talking about leadership, maybe on a smaller level, the justification for Ben Chiarot is generally, no matter what you think about the contract, is he's coming in to stabilize that blue line, maybe be a little bit more hard nosed and have more of a presence in front of the net, where the Red Wings got bullied a lot last year. How do you see the value of bringing in a guy like that, even just to be next to Moritz Seider, or make sure Moritz Seider is not the only person on the blue line who's, responsible and playing a solid defensive game?
I think that's huge. He plays a solid defensive game, and we saw it with those whom we've played with in the past, including the guy who's not here, Shea Weber. So we've seen that from him, and I love Ben Chiarot. I met him. I went out for Scott Oak's event in Winnipeg for his late son, Bruce, and Ben Chiarot was there, and we spent time with Ben. This is maybe 3 or 4 years ago now, when he was with the Jets, and what a wonderful guy he is. So I liked him at the time, and I said, even to the Jets guys at the time, that he was a good enough skater. They really loved him. They were really sad to see him go. They thought he was a real glue guy when he was in Winnipeg. So I just know from talking to the guys there at that time, and then see him move on to Montreal. And I know Jeff Petrie really loves him. So just from talking to guys who like him, I think his value is huge. Youth doesn't win championships, and it's a time, and it's a building time. And if you're building toward where you need to get to, even as pushing for the playoffs this year, maybe getting there next year, you need guys like that to build on. So I think his value is huge. We'll take the contract out of it. Doesn't matter to me. I think his value, you're here now, you're building blocks for years to come. You worry about 3 years from now or 4 down the road. They're not in a cap situation. Doesn't matter. It's their money. What do we care?
Yeah. Yeah, and Ken, to your point, I think one thing that a lot of people forget is Chiarot's best years were next to Shea Weber and next to Dustin Byfuglien, and you have, a similarly, I shouldn't say similar to Byfuglien, but similar offensive-minded defenseman in Mo Seider that he will likely get to play with a fair bit, and there's a chance you extract a lot of on-ice value, with Chiarot being next to Seider there, so that might be a tremendous pairing for the Red Wings.
Talking about cap space, Prashanth, the Red Wings are going to land with anywhere from $7 to $8 million probably, if and when, presumably, the Zadina contract gets done. That leaves them with a lot of options. You have your "If I Were Steve Yzerman" series. I'm going to poke you for a little extension here. If you were Steve Yzerman, what are you doing with that cap money heading into camp and with what you have right now?
I think what I'm doing is I'm not doing anything beyond the Zadina contract, a Larkin extension, and then you have to make a decision on what you want to do with Tyler Bertuzzi if you're going to commit to the extension or if you're going to decide to be listen to more offers in that regard. But I'm actually going to hold tight on the money because you saw how many teams were cap strapped this offseason. There's still a number of teams that have a number of players to add and are already $5-6 million over the cap. There's going to be some teams desperate to shed salary. There's going to be teams desperate to open up space at the trade deadline. I think you're best served carrying, $7-8 million in cap space into the offseason or into the trade deadline, I should say, particularly given that we know that the cap's likely only going up $1 million next year. So you'll probably have the same problem again in the offseason. So you're best served to hang on to that space for now, in my opinion.
All right, well, that's a look at the Red Wings next season. We took a look at the prospects. Ken, I'd love to talk a little bit about the great work that you and Mickey did. Towards the end of last season, or it was just recently maybe, there was a fan poll, a community poll conducted by The Athletic. I believe it was Sean Shapiro, and you and Mick and the team at Bally Sports Detroit were named the best broadcasting duo, the best broadcasting team across all NHL local markets. What was it like to kind of be recognized and to receive that accolade from the people who are tuning in and listening?
It was very nice. I think last year we were top 10 or something like that. And when, I got up that morning and Max had sent me the article ahead of time, I was surprised. I think we're most happy with the Red Wing fans. Obviously, they're voting and they're across the country. So it wasn't just here in Detroit. It was across the country. And considering where the team is at, and I know every game we go into with our Bally Sports group, obviously what the Red Wings are, and a lot of those games were ESPN Plus, thankfully, where we got blown out. We didn't have to, but we did do that Pittsburgh game. I won't forget that one. But sometimes, unlike the great players like, the James Van Riemsdykes in the old days, the Tim Kerrs, those who could deflect, we have to at times. And you have to deflect a little bit. Now, that doesn't mean we're hiding anything or we're not honest. You try to sell, if you can't sell what is here necessarily, you also are looking to build the stars of the league. And we can tell, oh, look who's coming in. Isn't that cute? Beautiful, Prashanth. Nice. And you got the wing wheel tee on. See, this is way more important than us. There you go. But there's a future Red Wing fan who can maybe vote for us down the road.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful. Very sweet. And I'll say it, it's just Red Wing fans. That's what floored us most, and the whole Bally crew. And it's not just Mickey and me. It's everybody on our broadcast and the stories that we present. And whether it be telling stories about Trevor Zegras or having fun with that, or how old Michael Bunting is, or whatever, or stories we tell about game pucks and all the pucks that Marner scored his 4-goal game, they were all his. And we told the story on how he got the pucks, and every goal that scored, it's all marked and they saved all the pucks. It's stuff like that to me, as maybe not as big a geek as Brad is, but as a hockey geek, I love the behind the scenes stuff. And that's why I have an affection for the referees and the story when Dean Morton retired and we had his one goal from his game in Calgary and a former Red Wing working the game with Wes McCauley, another Red Wing draft pick. And Dean liked the fact that he was drafted before Wes, even though Wes was a much better referee than Dean. Stories like that, to me, it's the human side of the game that when the team is struggling, you don't have to talk about all the struggling and the downer. Bring the good of the game. We always get excited when another team scores, not at a Red Wing level, but if it's a great goal, it's a great goal. So Mickey and my motto and the Bally Sports crew motto is never do a disservice to the game. If the players are great in the game, let's talk about them. Let's sell the game. Let's get the fans in to see that player we talked about, maybe a game in Arizona, and oh, Keller's coming in to play here. Oh, we want to see him. Oh, we heard him and something tweaked in their mind to want to come see him. That's what it's about. We're glad that Red Wing fans across the country, considering the lack of success of the team of late, appreciates what we're doing to try to sell the game and have fun with the game. If I go into every game, if I can make Mickey laugh at some point, and Lord knows he can make fans laugh on his own, or even if Mickey says something berating the referees and I just go quiet, Red Wing fandom knows, oh, Ken's gone quiet because he's trying to get Mickey off topic there. They know, and that's great. They're like family. And we know that, and we appreciate that. So that's all encompassing a long-winded answer to your question, how much we appreciate it. It's a group effort, and a group effort among the fans, and we appreciate that they appreciate what we're doing. Thank you.
Well, Ken, again, better put than I could ever do it, but the efforts and the immaculate professionalism that you and Mick both bring in your unique ways is so appreciated. And through the rebuild, having that, it's crucial. It's crucial to be able to watch those games and enjoy them. Because like you said, they weren't always fun to watch the Red Wings get walloped. Genuinely kudos and thanks for being part of it.
Yeah, and Ryan, when we get on those calls in the morning and the Red Wings have lost 5 in a row and they just got their doors blown off 11-2 or whatever it was, and we're on the call for the next game, and it's a group effort. We get on and we're going, what are we going to do tonight? But somehow through the course of the day, we all find stories that we can present. And believe me, sometimes they get to be too many, and I realize that. And sometimes you got to back off. And even some of them we don't get in. But if you have 8 and you get in 3 or 4 really good ones and said, oh, that was cool, or this was cool, or show something around the building, or Trevor's got something, that's what we try to do. We're in the entertainment business, and we try to entertain.
So very quickly before you wrap up here, for those not watching on YouTube, they won't have seen, but Prashanth, I believe this is you, the better version of you that's just joined us on screen. Who is this? The new official mascot of the Wing-We-Will podcast?
Yeah, he's got his mascot shirt on, and he's currently slapping the desk as loud as he can. So thank God for the mute button. But yeah, future Mickey and Ken watcher will be generation number 3 in my house. So we will continue to make sure that he can vote and continue to keep you guys at the top of the charts.
Okay, we'll have to decide whether he's going to shoot right or left, though.
He's a lefty right now. So if I teach him to shoot the puck the right way, I'll shoot righty.
Get him. You know what? Hey, you know what? Shea Weber can attest to this. Evan can. Have him golf right-handed. Seriously. I mean, I'm a lefty, and it's just me. And I play hockey lefty. They tried to switch me years and years ago. I've only been really playing for about 10 years. But years ago, he said, if I could make you a right-handed golfer, because, you get that bit of a slap shot in, Brad, right? Playing left-handed, and try to get that out of the game. If he can play righty, if he's a lefty in hockey, that's just my thinking. Go the opposite way would be great. Don't you think, Brad? Does that make sense or no?
Well, common sense dictates that your strong hand should be at the top of the stick. So whatever he's doing, I'm the inverse of that. I go against the grain, but that's conventional thinking.
Like you said, Ken, he's a little weirdo. He's a geek, but yeah, that's we'll see how the little man comes along. Folks, this has been Ken Daniels and Prashanth Iyer joining myself and Brad Crisco. Like Ken mentioned, Wing-We-Will podcast night at the LCA. First one of next season, and part 3 of the saga will be taking place on Saturday, October 29th. Stay tuned on when tickets open for sale. They go fast, as we've seen in the past, and it's all for a great cause with the Jamie Daniels Foundation. So Prashanth, Ken, thank you both so much for joining us, and until next time.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Absolutely.
And that was our interview with Ken Daniels, joined by our good friend Prashanth Iyer. Hopefully everyone's excited about the announcement. Wing-We-Will podcast night at the LCA returns, the first one of the season and the third one of the series. What do you call it? The third time we're running this back is on October 29th. That's a Saturday, and more details to come.
I'll try not to get COVID this time.
Yeah, do your
Right
best,
before.
buddy.
Yeah.
I forgot that is going to be really, really close to Halloween.
Yeah.
So not only can Evan sing Billie Jean, he can dress up as Michael Jackson to do it.
All right.
We'll get you the weighted shoes for the moonwalk and everything.
A nice like bedazzled black jacket as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Fedora.
Yeah.
And
I'm on Reddit enough. I could get a fedora.
You need to, your voice is a little low pitch.
Yeah.
You're going to need to
Give him
flip that around.
Might need to give him a bit of a kick before the performance.
Some helium. All right, buddy.
No, Ryan, I meant a literal kick.
Oh.
Yeah, come on, piece together, man.
Yeah. Put you in some pain. Winged Wheel Podcast Night, October 29th. Stay tuned for more tickets. Should be up for sale at the end of the month in August. Stay tuned. Follow us on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod for more information. Okay, before we move forward here with the rest of the episode, I do want to let you know that this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast is proudly brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook, a sponsor that gives hockey fans what we really need, even more excitement in the game. There's so many reasons why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. They're simple to use with great odds on different betting markets, giving you more action every game day, and they're tons of fun with unique bet types, like same-game parlay and exclusive promos on the biggest events. Plus, when you win, you get your winnings back safely in as little as 24 hours. Listen to this. FanDuel is letting you place your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. Just place a bet on any game, and FanDuel will refund you up to $1,000 back in site credit if you don't win that first bet. If you win, you keep the cash. If you lose, you'll get up to $1,000 back in site credit. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today to get started with that risk-free bet of up to $1,000, and be sure to sign up with promo code WWP so they know the Winged Wheel Podcast sent you. That's FanDuel Sportsbook, promo code WWP. Must be 21 and older and present in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, West Virginia, Indiana, Colorado, Iowa, Tennessee, Virginia, or Michigan. First online real money wager only. Site credit is non-withdrawable and expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-GAMBLER in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, or Virginia, Tennessee Redline 1-800-889-9789, 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-270-7117 in Michigan. Okay, the infinite amount of defensive depth, and I mean depth, like it's very bottom heavy, but depth that the Red Wings have seems to have been closed out unless any other major moves are coming by way of trade or outside of free agents. Jake Walman and the Red Wings avoided arbitration, which would have happened. We're recording this on Thursday, so August 11th today. They signed, Jake Walman signed a 1-year, $1.05 million one-way contract with the Red Wings. They initially went into arbitration with the team filing for a $775,000 contract. It's two-way that would have seen him being paid $225,000 in the minors, and his ask was a one-way contract at $1.7 million. So his was higher and the team's was lower than you thought, but that's just kind of how it goes with arbitration filings. Both sides come in extra high and extra low. Before we talk about the contract, just something to clarify. One-way versus two-way does not affect waiver eligibility. It legitimately only dictates how much the player is paid, depending on whether they're in the NHL or AHL. So a one-way contract means you get paid the same rate, same salary rate per day, no matter what. And a two-way contract means you have a lower salary rate that you're paid when you're not in the NHL, when you're sent down. So thoughts on the contract? Jake Walman returning once he's healed from his shoulder surgery.
Is this the first time in NHL history that a team's number one left defenseman at the end of a season got offered a two-way contract by the team?
Prashanth, get on that. Look that up, because that's a hysterical bit, but you might be onto something there.
Like, it's sad, but it might also be true.
Because at the end of the season, he legitimately was Detroit's best option at lefty.
Yeah, and not particularly close either, sad as that is. Yeah, I was, I get how arbitration filings go. You go to the absolute extreme end of your negotiating range because the arbiter's probably going to arbiter? Which one? 50-50. Arbitrator. Cool. Is just going to end up settling in the middle. But I was surprised that Detroit offered a two-way. Like that, it almost sounds too extreme saying it, but that almost sounds insulting. You know what I mean?
I was also really shocked too. Like, if I'm Jake Walman, that is a bit of a slap in the face. No? Am I crazy?
No, that was my initial reaction as well. Because again, last season's defense crew was so bad, it made Jake Walman look way better than he is. And Jake Walman isn't anything special. He's a legit top 6 NHL defenseman. He legitimately played at least half decent last year. But again, he's a number 5-6 guy on a good team at best. So, you're not paying that guy $2, $3, $4 million, and I fully understand that. But a two-way? He's an NHLer. This guy should, he's never going to play in the AHL again unless things go really off the rails for him. So, and it's possible he comes back from the shoulder injury, and if that gives him a lot of issues, who knows? So maybe that's the Red Wings thinking. But yeah, even if you offered him league minimum on a one-way, I don't think anybody's insulted there.
I think the way I look at it is two things. One, point back to what you said, Brad, at the start. Both of them go to either extreme, both parties. Jake Walman's not a $1.7 million defenseman. He knows that, his agent knows that, the team knows that, but he has to work in his best interest, and that's why he submitted the highest of what is remotely reasonable to the arbitration court. And at the same time, the Red Wings probably knew he'd come in at $1 million. You can't really go lower than league minimum, which is essentially what they offered. So how do you make that even less valuable? You slap a two-way tag on it. And that way it can be lower. So I think that is them trying to go to the other extreme. And, they have quite a bit of players. They have quite a bit of players ahead of him or in and around the roster spots he'll be fighting for. And he's going to be trying to come back from shoulder surgery. And it's easy to joke about the fact that he was Detroit's probably best left defense by the time the season finished last year, best left defenseman. But in reality, he is a third pair defenseman. So it was surprising. I was surprised at how far apart they were. I didn't fall out of my chair. I didn't write home about it. But I don't see the Red Wings slapping the two-way tag on it as any more egregious than Walman asking for 1.7, if that makes sense.
I get where you're coming from, but then you just 775. That's what it is, right?
I would love to know.
You need to go even. Do you need to chip away at the floor, even though it's already there?
775 two-way, and he's a little punk.
Yeah, and you lose your parking spot.
Wait,
you got to park in general admission.
Whoa. I know I said at some point during the last season that the bar for a Red Wings defenseman was subterranean, but I didn't think Yzerman to literally try to go under it.
I'm wondering if this isn't a simple, I don't know, I might just be coming in soft here, but I think this is all just clinical. There must be some kind of formula for this or what goes into it, or once you get into arbitration, then there's probably legal advising, and whoever does the cap for whoever the capologists are for a team, they say, okay, here's a formula for based on where the judge comes in on average, what you have to do. I don't know. I'm probably just coming in softer. You're right. It was pretty surprising. And I guess we disagree on the front of who was more egregious. I just think it was the same in my mind, but yeah, subterranean bar for defensemen. They're raising that to just at ground level this year.
Yeah. Yeah. They actually have to step a little bit now.
To your point, though, to credit both of you and probably arguing against myself here, is Jake Walman going to be, a top pair defenseman for this team? No, of course not, barring something amazing happening. But he is a good puck mover, and with more ice time, could be one of those guys that pans out as, hey, instead of just being he's third pair, he could be he's an everyday third pair, or, even slots up and plays number 4 sometimes or things like that. So I'm not going to guarantee it, but he is an intriguing player. I would have been sad to see him go. So happy he's locked in.
Yeah, it worked out for now. So when he gets back from the shoulder surgery, obviously he's got a lot of competition to get back in the lineup. So if, a Robert Hagg or a pick Osterley has a good start to the season, he really does have an uphill climb. So he might be out of the lineup by default by the time he gets back, which, would be a shame for him, but obviously not a knock against him. Yeah, so there's no guarantee. I guess I think that's probably Yzerman's thing. He's hey, we have 12 defensemen. There's no guarantee or even getting in the roster at this point. So
yeah. Yeah. It landed in what I think is fair valuation for him. 1 year. And if he can have a great recovery, take advantage of roster opportunities when inevitable injuries come, then
he doesn't have to rush back either because of the logjam. Like, take your time, be 100%, and get in the lineup when you get a chance.
Well, his next contract, he's going to be a UFA. So he's going to want to play as much as he can to earn that next contract, whether it's with Detroit or elsewhere. So that's Detroit's depth. There's quite a bit of it. And let's jump over to international play. I know we mentioned Buchelnikov and his, 5-point night or whatever it was during the Sochi Open, which is the U25s in the KHL playing, like a exhibition circuit. But at the end of that little tournament there, he was named the top forward of the entire Sochi Open.
I'm not going to get excited.
You're already excited.
I can't.
I
need to hold my hopes low.
You are our Buchelnikov truther on this podcast. You're his biggest champion. So if you're not going to get excited, then Brad and
I already have.
Yeah.
I already have. I can't do it anymore.
He looked good, man. He did look good that entire tournament. Okay, so at the time of recording, again, this is Thursday evening, we have seen some World Junior action, and what a funny game for the Swedes, first of all, the Red Wings Swedes. Noted goon Theodor Niederbach, as he mentioned in the interview, Brad, got tossed, got a 5 in a game for a hit from behind. I think it was the right call.
Yeah, I mean, guy turned a little bit, but he had enough time to let up.
Yeah, was it the hit from behind or hit to the head? I can't remember.
Hit from behind.
Yeah, so international rules are a little bit more, they're less lenient on that front. You're going to see a lot more called than what you'd see in the NHL. General summary of what we saw from the Red Wings Swedes overall. There was a really nice setup from Niederbach at one point for a goal, and there's a bad turnover, but there was also some really good puck control and play from Edvinsson as well.
Yeah, and an Edvinsson point shot after a couple deflections led to a goal, so he got on the board there. The Swedes were good. Like, Niederbach didn't have the greatest game. Wallander wasn't super noticeable. His defensive play outside of one gaff was pretty good, and obviously Edvinsson, despite not having his best game, still looked very good. So no concerns there.
Also takes these guys a little bit to get going. You even see that with Canada when their team is totally stacked. They're just going to run through everybody in the first couple periods. Or first game's a bit of a gong show, and everybody's all over the place. Like, right now in time is not how they're going to play throughout the tournament. This is very much a warm-up.
Hockey, like competitive hockey in early August, is so weird on every level. It's got to be weird for the players too.
Oh yeah.
This is usually when they're like bulking up for camps.
Yep.
And they're playing hockey. Speaking of Canada, Sebastian Cossa, who, we thought, or at least at the, end of last year, was looking to be Detroit's third string goalie, and Brad, you mentioned in the interview, has earned himself a spot in the top 2 and even got the start against Latvia.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be Canada's number 1 for the tournament. I think Garan's going to get the tougher matchups. I think Cossa just got Latvia because it's Latvia. But again, he was the third string goalie in the winter, so it's a step in the right direction, despite Cossa having, I think the polite way to put it would be an underwhelming season versus what we were expecting from him. But, he went in against Latvia, and he was all right. Probably one goal against that he would want back. Just didn't cover his lateral movement very well and stopped before he got to the post and got beat on the short side. It happens. It's not the most egregious goal in the world. Might have actually deflected off of Sabrangov.
Yeah.
But yeah, he didn't look comfortable in that net though. And that could be a product of being August, because his rebound control was poor. His movement in the crease was poor. He had, I don't even know how to describe it. The ultimate, like, Dominic Hasek moment where he just came speed skating out of the crease.
Like a madman.
And didn't get it. But he got lucky and the Latvian player fumbled it, so nothing came of it as to what should have been an empty net. He looked like he settled down late in the game and started making some pretty clutch saves, because to Evan's point, Canada didn't look like Canada against
The defense
Latvia.
was quite porous.
Yeah. Canada's second game, though, one of their players that Bob McKenzie was raving about at intermission was Donovan Sprangel. He went so far as to say that Donovan Zabrango is Canada's most important defenseman in this tournament because of the defensive role he plays on this team. And of course, when he got named an assistant captain, that fits what, the coaching staff is likely thinking. But yeah, so far, so good for those two, I guess.
Not going to draw major conclusions. I think coming in and knowing who is ahead of Cossa and knowing the amount of hockey that he's played recently, it's just been pretty much as it's been for Cossa. I will say something that has come to mind for me, though, is the more I watch him, the more I'm very open to the idea. Like, they have every path, up, down, and sideways for him. And I think, without acknowledging that I'm not a goalie expert and I'm not a pro on how goalies develop, I think if he stayed in the WHL or an equivalent league, that would be okay for him. Lots of raw talent, but the refinement has a long, long way to go. Not a bad thing, but you absolutely need to make sure you nail that development. Otherwise, that is a lot of draft capital.
Yeah, I'm not a goalie expert, but I would love to be a fly on the wall to hear what his goalie coach is instructing him on in Edmonton, because there are some plain fundamentals to his game that are bad, like just bad. And it's stuff that you would think is very easily corrected, and to this point in his career has not been. So, I know we talked about this a long time ago, but if they don't think he's ready for the AHL, but they want their own goalie coaches getting a handle on him, it could make a really hard decision even more complicated.
I also wonder, like, how much of this is just over scouting. Like, we've been talking about Cossa for what seems like 10 years, and it's been like one and a bit, right?
Yeah.
And we are the first to preach a lot of times, even more so than defensemen. Goalies develop slowly and at weird paces. So, and this is the first time the Red Wings have spent this kind of draft capital on a goalie really ever, like at least since we've started this podcast. And so the development path is going to look way different. So I still have quite a bit of patience. I don't disagree with you though, Brad. Like, there's stuff where you're like, it's stuff that can be corrected. It is absolutely the kind of thing that can be corrected, which is what was talked about when he was drafted. It's not a surprise, but that's what his focus has to be. I think you phrased it well off air. Like, the amount of miles he travels in his crease right now, it's not sustainable, and he's hurting himself by not being, the easiest way to stop a puck is to be in front of it before it gets there.
There were multiple times where he was outside of his crease, turned around, looking at his net.
Nice net.
That should never happen. Even on simple shots, it looked like Cossa was thinking too hard on how to handle them. Like, he's like, I know I'm going to make this save, but my coach is trying to get me to save it in this way so I can direct it that way. Or after I make the save, I need to recover to this position. Like, it just, you know what I mean? Like, his mind is so far beyond just make the save. And I don't know if that's overcoaching, undercoaching. His confidence is shaking. I have no clue what's causing it, but he looks uncomfortable and like he's second guessing everything he's doing, even simple wrist shots from the top of the circle.
Well, if that's the case, it doesn't get any easier going up levels.
I also wonder if going up a level is the way to do it, right? Like, make sure that you're playing against competition where the quality is high all the time, and you get quickly punished for your mistakes, but you're not losing Stanley Cups when you're, messing up a save at the AHL or ECHL or whatever level, right? So some more advanced coaching, you're closer to the Red Wings development system, and you just work on those kind of fundamentals that need to be there at the NHL level, then he would hardly be the first talented player to kind of overthink something. And if he's not in a challenging enough environment, that could be the solution. I'm not saying that's necessarily what I'd advocate for. I just said keeping him in the dub might be the answer, but the long and short of it is, like, outside of all the speculation, is that there is still work to be done.
Yeah, and I have a friend who has is a goalie, sorry. And he mentioned this to me a couple months ago when we were talking about Cossa, and I never brought it up on the podcast, but because I was talking about how Cossa's numbers fell pretty dramatically this year, particularly his save percentage, and like, despite having a better team in Edmonton. And, he was thinking along the lines of, well, he's like, well, after the Red Wings drafted him, they surely gave him a list of things they would like to improve on. So he probably spent the season focusing on improving on those things. And like I was just alluding to, not just stopping a puck, because Edmonton had their fair share of blowouts. So
yeah,
he didn't, in those games, if they're up 6-1, he's like, I don't give a crap how many goals I let in here. Coach wants me to butterfly this way, move this way, direct rebound like this. So he's hyper focusing on it, and he might still be doing it. That's the most optimistic reason I've heard for why he might have dipped in stats this year, but
tracks with other players.
Again, there's no way to know. It's like when Mo Seider was in Mannheim, right? Like, hey, we need you to focus on defense, F everything else.
Yeah.
Maybe something like that was going on with Cossa this year. Again, we'll never know. And I'm going to repeat that till I'm blue in the face. This is like all speculation, but look what happened to Mo Seider. Okay, you can play offense again. Oh, holy hell, he can play offense. So, you know, if Cossa's got those warts that they were trying to work out, like, fixed, okay, now that it's all muscle memory for you, just go save pucks. Maybe his numbers like skyrocket back up. I don't know, but it would make sense.
Well, depending on how Canada's tournament goes and how Grand does, we might not see Cossa in net again, or we might. And then if he is between the pipes, it'll be all eyes on him. Let's jump over to some NHL news. Robin Lehner, current starting goalie, I guess no longer for the Vegas Golden Knights, hip surgery, out for the season. That team has been on fire for how many years now? And
not in like a win streak, like literal flames coming out of T-Mobile Arena.
Yeah. Like, what was all that drama with Robin Lehner and the team, and they expected him to play and he didn't want to because he was hurt, et cetera, et cetera. The result is hip surgery and he's out for the season, which is a terrible look.
Hard for goalies to come back from hip surgery.
Yeah.
Someone who tries to touch their toes, I could imagine how bad that would feel, having to get your hip worked on.
He's a pretty polarizing guy and a pretty polarizing player. So I'm not going to say, the player can do no wrong here, but man, if he's out for the season and there was an expectation for him to play, and now he has to have a surgery that's like devastating to his career. He's been one of the better goalies in the NHL over the last, 3 or 4 years. Aside from the fact that Vegas now has a massive goalie problem.
Right after the goalie carousel stopped.
Yeah.
It's almost like Vegas kind of doesn't know what they're doing.
They're flying by the seat of their pants. And then Pacioretty, who they had to give away for free, tore his Achilles and is out long term, which is a massive blow to Carolina. Like, what's going on?
He was training with Mark Pesic.
Yeah. That it's very NFL. Like with the NFL in training camp, there's always like a dozen players each year where you're like, yep, that player's Achilles exploded and they're not playing this season. And it sucks, but it's just the nature of that sport. But anytime it happens in the NHL, it has just a little bit extra. Oh God.
I think it was did they say it was an off-ice injury, or was that someone else?
I think it was, an off-ice injury. But
I mean, that's what happened to Pesic too, was training.
Yeah, just train off-ice.
That's why I don't go to the gym.
You don't.
Why risk it?
You don't go to the gym.
Why risk it?
Yeah. Your body's a temple, and that's why you don't go
That's
to the
right.
gym.
I'm a true athlete. I play golf, and that's it.
I mean, temples are filled with like ghouls and ghosts and monsters and
Doritos.
Yeah, that's tough news for both of them. But the Vegas Golden Knights are going to have to. Thompson's going to either play 70 games or they're going to have to figure something else out. Again, that guy's going to have a ton of pressure laid on him, and it's going to be interesting to see how that goes.
I can't even think of a free agent goalie that would be even worth investigating as like an absolute backup plan, like insurance policy.
Oh, they're going to just have to trade for one of Detroit's 2 starting goalies.
What's Tim
now.
Thomas doing?
Please. Yeah. He's got to be like, how old is he? Like 45 now?
At
He
least.
came back to the NHL when he was 45.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to jump over to Overtime here. Overtime is brought to you by our Patreon supporters, patreon.com/wingedwheel podcast. If you want to join the Dub Club and help support the show. For all of you who've been joining during the off season, thank you so much. And thank you to our patrons for giving us a chance to have this little break during the slowdown. It allows us to do things like recharge our batteries, work on some stuff on the back end for the pod, and make sure the content we're bringing you leading up to next season's even better. But prepare yourselves. The midweek stuff is coming. So the Patreon exclusive midweek episodes are going to come. We owe you a couple at this point, so stay tuned. All right, let's start with a question here from Sean Trainer, who's a new patron. Sean, welcome to the Dub Club. Says, love what you guys do. Keep it up. Got another noob hockey question for you. How do the players know when to change shifts? When I watch the game, it seems as though players just know when to go on or off the ice. What goes into that process? I assume the coach is yelling line 1, go, line 2, go, or something to that effect. But with how loud, fast, and chaotic the game can become, it seems like it would be difficult to hear those calls. Never played, so I would love the insight.
First indicator that it's time to change is when their legs start to feel like Evans after doing even moderate amounts of walking.
It's called stairs.
No, so it's actually fascinating when you get into the nuance of it, and I won't, for the sake of time, go like super detailed here. But within a team's systems and structures, the coach has, here's where you go, here's when you go. If the puck's here, you 4 change. Here's where I want you keeping pressure, which is why you'll see, like, at times, say the Red Wings top line is out. You'll see Larkin and Raymond run off the ice, and then Bertuzzi will still be kind of floating in the offensive zone between the two defensemen with the pucks, just to kind of, we'll call it, keep them honest, so that they can't just spring for a home free on the far side. And then once the rest of the Red Wings regroup, Bertuzzi comes out. So there's times and places where coaches instruct them to go. And then on the bench, the dynamic's really simple. It always runs through the center. So you won't say line 1, line 2, you'll call by the center. So, Larkin's line, for example, Lalonde will just be standing behind the bench, Larks, go. And then Raymond and Bert hear Larkin's name. They know they're up. And then what the line does is they all yell who they're taking so that they never miss an assignment. Now, sometimes the center always goes first. Not every team does that. They'll say it 900 times a year. Raymond will go, I got Vrana. Bert will be like, I got whoever. And they will repeat it to each other every time, every single time they ever jump on the ice. So there's never any miscommunication, because when you get sloppy with it, that's how too many men on the ice penalties work out. Because if you're another line, and, you're talking about something, a player or whatever, and then the coach calls the next line and you didn't hear him, but then you hear one of the other centers going, I got so-and-so, your line's not up because they're calling players. So it's like super intricate for something that seems so simple.
Aaron Cornell, also another new patron. Aaron, welcome, and thank you for the support. Says, question about the importance of a hockey captain. Outside of being a leader and doing press conferences, what other general responsibilities do captains have? Also, does it seem like hockey captains carry more responsibilities than other sports?
I think the captains in all the sports generally have the same responsibility. One, there's a team away from management and the coaching staff, and, there'll be team group chats. There's, in the room, a lot of chatter, and it's the captain's job to keep the room from getting separated, pissed off, to keep order. And then the other big job for the captain is acting as the in-between between the players and the coaching staff, because the coaches don't want a fourth line guy running into the office. Why the hell aren't you playing me more every damn day?
Yeah.
But if they talk to the captain and, they have it out, and then whenever the captain has this meeting with the coach, he can go over, okay, this guy's saying this guy's saying this, the room's feeling this. And then, the captain and the coach hash it out and come to solutions on some. And sometimes the solution is, tell that guy to stuff it. But then that's Larkin who's relaying the message a little more softly.
Yeah. End of the Babcock era, Henrik Zetterberg essentially was, and he took a lot of heat from Babcock, and he was the filter.
Yeah.
Not that stopped Babcock from doing what he did to Franzen and some other players, but Zetterberg essentially sacrificed his relationship with Babcock because he was advocating for his teammates and trying to soften to put it lightly, how Babcock was coaching. So that's, I think, an extreme example of it, but it points to what Brad was just saying.
Yeah, it's not that the coach will never have contact with the rest of the locker room. A good coach will have contact constantly with all players, but there's not a coach in the world who has time to do individual meetings with every player every day, which is where the captain helps to, filter the stuff that's going on.
Question here from Shatna says, is there a trade package that would make sense with Vegas now that we know Leonard will be out all year? That jumped to my mind. Detroit has 2 startable goalies in Nedeljkovic and Husso. What I will say to that is Vegas would have to, it couldn't just be a simple package of like something that would meet equal value in terms of picks and middle prospects, because Detroit worked pretty hard to land in a situation where they have 2 good goalies and they are not a tanking team anymore. So you really shouldn't be giving away one of your 1A or 1B unless it's like an offer you can't refuse from Vegas. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the Red Wings are in a position right now where they have 2 very talented maybes. The strategy right now is we just need one of them to hit. And when you have 2 of them, the odds double. So if you go back down to just one, if they struggle, you're, back to square one.
I don't know. Vegas has mortgaged a lot of futures for the team they have now. So I don't really know that they have what Detroit would want. They have their next 3 first-round picks, but I don't know if Vegas has given that up. They get quite a bit of cap space now through LTIR, so they have options. They just might not be sexy options.
Nedeljkovic is a UFA in a year. Send him as a sleeper agent. Go in there, tank them, and we have their unprotected first.
Yeah.
Nedeljkovic comes back the following offseason with Connor Bedard.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Andrew Pillin says, hey guys, is Zadina still being unsigned, worrying at all, or is he just negotiating with Yzerman? Thanks and keep up the great work.
Oh, they might not even have started negotiating yet. Yzerman had free agency to deal with, Walman, a couple other things.
I would disagree, and I would say
they probably have talked, but it's not concerning.
I'm a little concerned.
Mm-mm.
He's team control, and it's not like Zadina has put up monstrous numbers where he's going to burn Detroit on a contract, but I don't know. I'm concerned from the space of I really think Zadina can be way more successful than he has been. I might be naive for hanging on to that, but I'm not ready to kind of let go of that. But if this is a tenuous contract negotiation and he's already kind of on the fringe with the team in terms of his standing, and there's a lot of roster players in front of him, it's not my money. I'm not the one being paid, so easy for me to say. But I would like to see this done quickly because Zadina needs to focus on having the best year of his career or else this season. No?
I mean, we knew going into this offseason, Zadina was going to be one of the more complicated contracts because of everything like you just said. So I don't think anybody expected that contract to get done quickly. So, going into the offseason, you could have almost bet he'd be the last contract signed, and here we are.
Question here from the patented Pesek piss missile says, and it's on the Zadina topic, says, question about Zadina. Portions of the hockey world seem to label him as a bust, even though he's still top 10 in his draft class for most counting stats. Am I missing something here? Was that draft class just not that good?
Again, I talked about it last episode. Take anything the national media says about bottom 6 forwards with a huge grain of salt, because there are not many national writers who are actually diving into the Red Wings beyond just counting stats.
The additional layer there is there was a firm amount of excitement when Detroit drafted Zadina, from us included, and especially even because he was a player that was projected to go 3rd or 4th, where very late in the game, Kotkaniemi rose astronomically. Probably not the best move by Montreal to draft him. And Brady Tkachuk moved up the board, and that turned out to be good. I had that
Barrett Hayton.
And Barrett Hayton, that's right. So Zadina fell. We weren't really expecting Zadina. We had 1 or 2 episodes before that draft, I remember, where we said, here's a confluence of events that could lead to us getting Zadina. Wouldn't that be amazing? And it just shook out that way. So Zadina was 6th overall, but he was being treated in terms of expectations as like a 3rd overall. And that was a miss by us and a lot of the scouting community, of course. So aside from what Brad said, which I think is the main piece here, because they don't know the nuance behind Zadina, he also has been a letdown by not only his draft, where he was drafted at that position, but the measure of where he should have been prior. Like, he hasn't been filling nets. so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. If you showed a national writer a clip of his game and every time he got within 10 feet of the net, you just cut the clip, they'd say he's doing great.
Well, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. And start times for podcasts. No one was late today. I don't know why I took a shot at you. You didn't do anything.
It wasn't me. I was here first.
You were here? Well, Brad was right behind.
I would have been
that's
here
right.
first had I, parked closer.
Early bird gets the worm.
Yeah, I was the early bird there, champ. You drove past me.
Last
I was
time
walking to the house.
And as well as Ryan knows, I was the first person here.
All right, folks. We're going to get into recording our Patreon exclusive overtime. There's going to be a lot of movement over the next couple of weeks. Patrons, stay tuned for some bonus content coming. It's on our minds. We're just navigating around vacations and whatnot right now.
Still waiting for you to play me in a golf round, and we can put it on YouTube or something.
We'll do it as soon as you do Billie Jean.
How about that?
No, well then it's never happening. I'll remain.
Tell you what, you do
undefeated.
Billie Jean, we'll do that round and I'll golf with your clubs left-handed.
You're not touching my golf clubs.
Folks,
Give me your old set. I don't care.
thank you all so much for tuning in. All of our patrons, new and old, we really, really appreciate you. All of our listeners, those of you who have been leaving reviews for us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get the show, it makes a big difference. And the sponsors of this podcast, the FanDuel Sportsbook, thank you for that campaign. And all of our name level supporters on Patreon, Arjun Shanker, Yves Bartels on behalf of the Sarah Grand Foundation, Aikfer, the Stay Fresh Cheese Bag, Nick Perks, Terry Driver of the number 69 Crying Ryan has been in a Simon Jamathong, Matthew M. Rice, Brandon M., Carl Brutanen Nanalewski, Chimmy, Chris P., who's a brand new name level sponsor. Chris, welcome to the Dub Dub Club. Citizen High Five, Connor Scovey, Coyotes season tickets in Tempe, Craig Kibble, Derek Enstam, DJ Denton, Give Blood, Fight Probert, Hassam Al-Qassem, Jay Gollum, Jacob Turner, Kalen Wood, King Tone, Kyle Hashman, Marcus, Matt McKay, Nicholas Fritz, R.A., Ryan Hanna spelled with two N's, Ryan Hubbard, Scott Martin, The Nighttime Sniffing, Sneezing, Coughing, Robert Hagging, Stuffy Head Fever So You Can Rest Medicine, Zachary Rogers, Ryan Hanna, Sam Bankson, Antonio Gracias, Babe Landeskog is a Stanley Cup champion, Ben Barron, Bertuzzi and Heronic Trade Proposal number 69, Brian Vasha, Connor Leighton, Darren Fick, Dave W., Evans Adult Film Star, Alter Ego, Kevin Lovesaber, Evans Bingo Card, Griffey Boy, James Laporte, Jeremiah Dobo, JM Rhapsody, John Evans, Josh Yelton, Justin and the Angry Mob, Kevin McCracken, Quaz, Logan Burgos, Madison Bowie. Wow, what a return from Madison Bowie. Matt S., Maximilian, Melissa Erickson, Papa Woody, Puck Norris, Reed, Revi DeLuca, Ryan Hanna, the prophesied Lobsinger Hot Tub episode, Thick Rick, Trevor Pevovar. That's all. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Evan, between Billie Jean and a hot tub episode, you are in debt to our patrons.
Apparently, yeah.
All right, folks. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockeytown Evan.